What's up, internet? This is going to be a how to change your sprockets and your change on an Sv650S. This is a 2005, and I'm going to show you a second what's wrong with the chain, but it's definitely binding. It's making a really loud noise, especially on acceleration. Some other reasons why your chain might be messed up is you might have a kink in it somewhere, or it just might be rusted, or over time chains do expand and loosen, and you have to move your wheel back in order to make up for that slack, and eventually you'll run out of room. You're also going to enlarge your wheelbase, and you don't want to do that. So we're going to put a fresh chain, and it's always a good practice to put on fresh sprockets as well. If you're wondering what chain to buy, definitely buy an O-ring chain. You could buy non-O-ring chains, which are extremely cheap. They will not last long. They will not handle rain very well. Don't do it. Just don't do it whatsoever. I went kind of the cheaper route. I was able to get the JT sprockets and the X1R chain, which got decent reviews. It's like middle of the road. I got all this for $110 out the door on Amazon. I'll link it below. And I went with steel sprockets. You can buy aluminum sprockets, which are much more expensive. The thing with aluminum is it's not going to last as long, but it's going to lighten your weight. And any weight you can lighten that's that's not under suspension, which is like your wheels and your brake system on the wheels and your chain, your drive chain. Any weight you could save there is extremely easy weight because it's rolling weight, and you want to reduce your rolling rate as much as possible, especially when you're racing. However, for like a street bike, you're going to get more life out of this, and this isn't a race bike. This is more of a commuter bike, play bike. So steel was my choice on this. As far as whether to go 525 or 520 chain, the 520 is for racing. If you're just going for the street, get the 525. Again, a little heavier, but a little more heavy duty as well. So we went, and then as far as gearing, we went with a 15 up front, which is stock. You can jump down to 14 if you want a lot faster gearing, a lot faster revving. You're going to lose a little bit on the top end, and you're going to be in higher RPMs on the freeway at like 75, 80 miles per hour. And then I went, so stock was 15. You could go 44. Nobody in their right mind would go 16. And then as far as the rear, it's 44 stock on the S, it's 45 stock on the non-S model. So S 44, non-stock 45. I've already removed the front sprocket cover. You can remove it without removing your gear shifter. Okay, before we get started, always wear messed up clothing, both on your pants and your shirt. Hopefully you don't have to go back to work later today because your fingers are gonna get greasy. Here are the sprockets. We got the rear 44, the front 15. The chain, you want to make sure it's 108 links. 108. One time I bought a chain and they're like, oh, you can just cut it down to size. So they sold me like a chain with 116 links, so I had to take off 8. Well, it's not that easy to figure out. You're like, oh, do I cut it there or do I cut it here? If you mess up and you cut it too short, you're totally screwed. And otherwise, it's just a pain. Just get the right length and then it'll be perfect for your application. So for the Sv650S, that's 108 links. Okay, when you're handling the chain, it is going to be full of lube, so make sure you handle it with either a piece of plastic, or you wear a glove, or you have some sort of other clothing like this messed up shirt that I could grab it with. So I wanted to show you what was wrong with this chain. Let's just go ahead and hear it and see it for yourself. So I finally got this off. So what you actually want to do is you want to leave the old chain on. When you break this off, take off the clutch cover, make sure the little nut around it is flattened so it's not in the way. And then what I did here, as you can see, I put half the jack in the wheel against the swing arm to stop the wheel from moving, keep it in neutral. And then I use the other part of the jack with my 32 millimeter as a leverage. And it's really hard. Like, I had to hold this down to make sure it wouldn't move, but eventually it breaks off and you can remove it from there. You're gonna hear a loud pop. See, I don't think this one's ever been changed before. And you can see that the factory uses red Loctite, so it's on there. Out with the old stock, in with the new. So make sure that's on there. So typically you want to find the master link, and then you want to use something like this, which is called a chain breaker. This chain breaker is currently broken, and I'm getting rid of this chain and sprocket, so we're just going to go the old-fashioned way and get a grinder. Alright, that took our link off. Okay, now that we've got the chain off, we're going to go ahead and release the wheel, 24 on each side, release the wheel, take it off. We're going to put on the new sprocket. Keep the hub in the wheel, and there's actually a 14 millimeter to pull these off. So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. These are lock nuts, so they do take a little bit more effort to take off, and remember to try to do a star pattern if you can. Once they're all off, this should be able to pick right up. Again, watch the grease. Okay. We have our old sprocket off. The other thing you want to do is you want to shorten these adjusters here. It's a 12 millimeter. You want it to be all the way in the beginning. So here's when you need the wheelbase as short as possible to make sure these master links fit. If it's the right length, it's going to be a tight fit. You're going to have your master link. You're either going to have the clip on, or this kind of is like the pressure on. You have 4 rubber grommets, some grease, and then the master link itself. And we'll show you how to put that on in just a second here. Now comes this tool here, the chain tightener. Okay, the master link was on. To use this tool, you give a little bit of pressure on the big bolt, and then you just go side to side on these littler bolts, 5 millimeter wrench on those. We now have our master link on here, and there it is there. We're looking good. With the master link like this, you want to get like a millimeter gauge. Just make sure that it's compressed the same as like the other chains. And then now we're going to tighten the adjustment here, and then we're going to button everything back up, tighten that bolt. Not too bad. Okay, that's good. All right, this is back on. Clutch is working. You want to check all your bolts. So I took these bolts off. I made sure this is tight. The sprocket's bolt is tight. Make sure the rear sprocket bolts are tight. The rear axle bolt. Gear shifter's still good. The last thing to do is put on the front sprocket cover. Okay. And there you have it.